Good evening. Boy, is this great to see. We're so excited to have this program tonight. So I wanted to take a moment to welcome you, remind you one last time, if you have anything that beeps, buzzes, vibrates, makes noise, please silence them at this time, because we really want to be respectful of the people who are about to speak with you tonight. So in addition to being the chairman of the board of the Churchill Club, I have a real job. I am the CEO of the Brenner Group, one of the oldest interim executive staffing and financial advisory services firms here in the Valley. Tonight, we have a great debate. The Churchill Club Great Debate is the future of enterprise software, and we're going to present the distinguished speakers, Marc Benioff from Salesforce.com and Hasso Plattner from SAP, and the program will be moderated by Quentin Hardy of Forbes. So we want to thank them all for being here. You'll have a moment to do that in just a few minutes. I've been told that part of my job is to do some brief announcements, so I hope you'll bear with me. First, we want to again tell you how especially pleased we are to be here at the Computer History Museum tonight. The Computer History Museum is the leading institution in the world to preserve the history of our industry. The museum will introduce a new exhibit next month, which is a 5-ton Babbage difference engine, number 2, never before seen in the U.S., and we hope you will come and check it out. Our next Churchill Club event is a San Francisco breakfast program on Wednesday, April 9th, and please join us for the Bot Plague, how organized crime has saturated the internet with sprawling bot networks and why you should care. Here is your chance to talk to 4 world-class experts from Kaspersky Labs, Gartner, Damballa, and SecureWorks about this serious issue. So if you have any interest in that, please, we encourage you to attend. On Wednesday, May 14th, the club presents our much-anticipated 10th annual Top 10 Tech Trends. And it is that this year's debate will be between Steve Jurvetson, Roger McNamee, Joe Schoendorf, and will be moderated by Tony Perkins. Be sure to save the date and be prepared for another lively evening. As always, get all the information you need about these and other programs at churchillclub.org. Tonight, Ustream is streaming this program live on its website at ustream.tv, and we thank them for doing that. Ustream, they are a great promoter of our club, and we're really glad to have them decide to start streaming our programs. We welcome the web viewers at this time as well. We're glad that you're here to join us for this great debate tonight. We invite everyone who is watching tonight to make note of the best things heard from the program, as well as the best things overheard from anywhere during the event, and send your comments to info@churchillclub.org, and we will share the results with you via email at the end of the day by next Monday. So now, our lead sponsor tonight for this program is Citrix Systems. Citrix is a leader in the industry and in our community, and is a leading member of the club as well. Please join me in thanking them for their generous support tonight. We also have 4 supporting level sponsors tonight, and they are the club member ARMA Partners, club member Salesforce.com, and top level club member SAP. Our 4th supporting sponsor for this program is CSC. Please join me once again in extending our thanks to these organizations for their generous support. CSC has a Team CSC cycling jersey to give away tonight. Please enter the drawing at the CSC display table, and the winner will be announced at the end of the program. So if you want that jersey, hang out. We're going to make the announcement right up here on this stage at the end of the program. Finally, I would like to extend a special thanks to our co-host, ARMA Partners. Their expertise and influence in the industry was only too apparent as we worked with them on this program. It is with great pleasure I'd like to call Brian Skiba of ARMA Partners to the stage to introduce Quentin.
Thank you very much, Rich. I want to applaud the spirit, the toil, the efforts, and the incredible amount of work that's gone on the part of the Churchill Club to pull this event together, but also for the ongoing events that they have throughout the year, the interesting banter, the discussion, the people they bring to bear here. I attended my first Churchill meeting about a year ago as a guest at Gibson, Dunn & Crutcher, and the next day Arma Partners became a corporate sponsor. It seems to me the health of the Valley is really dependent on this critical discussion, a fusion of creative ideas, global perspectives, and everything that comes together here, and without doubt, the Churchill Club is a pretty key part of that ecosystem. It is my privilege to introduce Quentin Hardy today, Silicon Valley Chief of Forbes magazine. Quentin will be moderating the discussion or debate. Quentin joined the magazine, Forbes, in March of 1999 and has written cover stories on Yahoo, Google, Hewlett-Packard, the telecommunications industry, philanthropy, and many other topics. Quentin has spent many years before that at the Wall Street Journal covering the Japanese financial meltdowns in Tokyo, the boom in the Silicon Valley in the late 90s. He also teaches at University of California at Berkeley and lectures at Stanford School of Journalism and Computer Science. Quentin, welcome.
Thanks very much. All right. Well, thank you all for coming, and welcome to the Churchill Club's first ever enterprise software crystal ball gaze, prognostication soiree, reality check, hype fest, and executive cage match smackdown. We're here to talk about the future of a $250 billion industry, one that both participants and pretty much everyone here would agree is entering a major transition of technology, and one that will quite likely affect everyone in the room. Quite likely it's bigger than mainframes to workstations or PCs or the client-server shift that has created much of the current value in the industry. This shift is, of course, to a highly networked, highly decentralized, lightly coupled environment, and in its extreme state, totally internet-based, can already be seen in embryonic forms in Amazon Web Services, Google for corporate use, or Salesforce.com. I say embryonic because all promise much more and are striving to achieve much more. In a more controlled environment, it's in NetSuite and in SAP's Business by Design, and I know Hasso has a lot more to say about where that's going to go. Either way, there are massive implications for developers and for customers, for investors, and for our overall economic development in the Valley and elsewhere. At the same time, this transition raises questions of complexity, reliability, scalability, architecture, and of course, profitability. Just to put it into focus, I was saying before to one of our guests, enterprise software is a $250 billion business. If you take SAP, Oracle, IBM, and Microsoft, that's half the industry in revenues right there. You know, either those four are going to transit over, others are going to arise very quickly, or the business is going to shrink. I think both of our panelists think this transit means the business is actually going to grow. How's that going to take place? Well, here to sort the entrails for us, we have Hasso Plattner and Marc Benioff. Dr. Plattner was one of the original 5 founders of SAP in 1972, became the vice chair in 1988, and the chairman of the executive board from between 1997 and 2003. He serves now as technical advisor to the company as well. I was particularly interested in SAP's role in this because SAP, obviously starting in 72 and creating R1 and R2, was a mainframe software company. With R3 around 92, 93, it caught client-server, partly by luck, design, however you want to put it. But they designed in Unix and stayed in Unix, and making that client-server transition totally made the company the behemoth it is today. So I would think more than any other company existing large-scale enterprise software, they understand the importance of getting this tech transition right. We also have Marc Benioff, who left Oracle in 1999 with a vision to start Salesforce.com, which is a company that obviously has prospered magnificently with a total vision of commitment to this new transition. He started with CRM on demand, but most recently started Force.com, what he calls a platform on demand, and really sees as key to where this transition will take us all. We can talk about that a great deal later. For now, I'd like to welcome both Marc Benioff and Hasso Plattner up, and we'll get started. Gentlemen, thank you. Let's sit down. All right. I think they marked us. Can you take the end and mark in the middle? All right, well, I did a little work with numbers before we showed up. And so Salesforce, 750 in revenues. SAP, 16 billion in revenues. Salesforce, 7.4 billion in market cap. SAP, 59 billion in market cap. SAP has enough cash on hand to purchase about 50% of Salesforce.com in the open market. Not that that's something they might want to do. Hasso. On the other hand, SAP forward PE 15, Salesforce forward PE 97. Either the market is delusional or they see magnificent growth for you guys. And when we talk about this tech transition,
You didn't mention our growth rate.
I'm sure you can do that.
Oh, okay.
Good growth rate, right? You didn't mention your margins. Margins 2.7%, margins 26%.
And a half.
Yeah.
Sorry, who's counting? This is going to be okay, by the way. Nonetheless, you know, Salesforce, expectations of continued strong growth, 38,100 companies inside this remote model.
41,
SAP.
41,000 now.
Yes, just down boy, okay? Anyway, SAP, a lot of ideas where this architecture can go. So far, business by design, a hosted service for $145 a month. Not yet a player in the space. So my question for both of you is, what does this architecture look like, and which one of you guys is David and which one's Goliath? Mark?
Well, I don't know who is David and who is Goliath, but as you said correctly at the beginning of your comments, you know, we are sitting, of course, at this beautiful museum here in Silicon Valley, and it is the history of our industry. We're sitting inside the history, and the history of our industry is a continuum. It's a continuum of technology that's constantly getting lower cost and easier to use. That the companies who have gravestones down below, downstairs in the exhibits, are the companies that were not able to continue the path of innovation, because as our industry grows in this continuum, you get these paradigm shifts. And that's just the reality of our industry, and you have to make these shifts. And we are witnessing before our eyes today the creation of a new enterprise software industry. There's many new companies that I know that are in this room, and many others around the world who are pioneering a new era of enterprise software built around some fundamental principles that are different than the previous era. And we, in kind of this new generation of enterprise software company, look to the functionality of the past, but we are looking to the values of consumer companies like the Google, eBay, Amazon, Yahoo, who have become these massive companies who serve millions of users with tremendous complexity, but they're able to do it through this new model, which new technology model really is kind of unparalleled and unprecedented, and have created tremendous value for the world. And that is fundamentally the world that we are in, that is what is now occurring.
Well, let me just pick up. I mean, Hasso, you probably agree it's a paradigm shift. You've lived through a couple, but eBay and Google give massive complexity around one thing. Enterprise software is complexity of a whole other sort. Do you agree with Mark's analysis that there are many companies rising up? Do you think this architecture will fundamentally disrupt the incumbents?
Now, first of all, why do we have this? We have the networks. We have the network speed. Therefore, we can separate computers from each other and still maintain the illusion of an integrated system, or actually for the user, it is an integrated system regardless where the computers are. We have seen that we can have complicated software across the internet. For me, the breakthrough was Google Earth, to get something complicated, and everybody can use it, and speed is pretty nice. That's the point where I asked Bill Gates, when can we do spreadsheets over the internet? And there are many applications which can be offered on demand over the internet, and there are some characteristics. For the first phase, they have to be pretty generic. So therefore, we see Salesforce automation, we see analytics on demand, we see spreadsheets, we will see Office in the cloud, we will see many of these applications. Is a complete enterprise software we want to build or we are building, is that different? Yes and no. It's software, but there are some different characteristics, but I don't want to go into them. I want to keep the discussion more on an abstract level. I think the most important thing is we have to learn in the software industry is when we use services, we cannot really modify them. The core parts of these services are delivered. We cannot change Google Earth inside. We can put something on top. So we have to learn how we can use services and mesh them up with other services. So that is one lesson. Second is that we then have to either confine ourselves, restrict ourselves, or the service provider has to come with a close to perfect system. We thought that we have a perfect system in '93 with R3, and we learned when we entered the market that the more popular the system became, the larger companies took the system. So we were sucked up, like in an upstream wind, sucked up into the large companies, and they added on and added on and added on. In '93, I had a model, modification-free software. We have identical clones out in the field, and we lowered TCO significantly. We lost that battle. Our second customer in the US was Chevron, then number 10 in the US. End of the story. I could not tell Chevron, you're not allowed to extend the software. There's a competition against Oracle, and every night they added new feature. We had to compete, and Oracle did them, we did them. So this has to stop in this model. We can't do, you can look at salesforce.com, what they can do, and you can add fields and put them in screens, you can change screens, you can add forms. We have in our system, we are developing, I think 2,100 service interfaces where we can go into other software or let other software access these services. This is humongous. We believe in this concept. And I want to come back to what is the real advantage here? We just had a little chat before. We totally agree on, for the first time we can see, again, in the years, we can see what our software is doing. We can permanently monitor the software. And we see what the users are doing, whether this is totally in line with confidentiality and whatsoever. Let us assume we can have an agreement on that the developers can see what the users do with the system and react in a nearly timeless fashion.
So you're saying the big difference is you can observe behavior and adjust accordingly.
And this is the quick stream. It started, and you have, and every single one who has an internet sales is monitoring. Anybody who has a portal on the internet is permanently
But I
monitoring.
think where you two might split has to do with access to the system and complexity.
No,
you want a platform that opens up.
We have a completely different angle of attack.
Go.
We forget the little ill-fated one when we put in CRM on demand on the internet to compete with him. This is
Your customers already forgot about it, don't worry.
Don't laugh too early. We're coming back to that. Release 7.
With 3.6 billion, they can screw up many times and come at you.
They're a great company.
Now you derailed me.
I'm sorry.
What we want to do is a complete enterprise system, probably including online sales, not including design software for manufacturing and actually manufacturing. So, but anything ERP plus CRM plus PLM plus SCM, all the buzzwords. So a complete enterprise system, including now significant analytics, thanks to our acquisition. And this system, we have to look at customers for that. Where does it start? And this doesn't start at the single user. This doesn't start at the mom and pop shop. And even the window manufacturer, if he doesn't have 50 to 100 people, is not a candidate for that system. So we start much later. We start at least an order of magnitude, factor 10, later. So 10 users is nothing we are looking for. 20 users is if the company...
Aren't you concerned you're making the classic mistake that happened around
No,
PCs where they seeded a lot of little companies and they grew up, it came out of the weeds, they never saw you coming?
The single user enterprise, which I appreciate that these exist, they don't need a system like this. They don't have to schedule. They don't need an availability to promise because it's all in their brain or in their spreadsheet.
Well, Mark, he seems to be saying that there are certain things having to do with complexity or core business processes that will not take place in your internet-based platform.
Right. Well, I think we need to kind of rewind a little bit because in the first, Salesforce is coming up on its 10-year anniversary in basically now 11 months. So in our first decade of business, what we've been mostly focused on is defining software as a service, the aspects of multi-tenancy, the aspects of you can be a small company, the smallest in the valley, or you could be Cisco, one of the biggest in the valley, and still use Salesforce.com for all of your employees. You can, it will be fast, it will be easy, it will be global, it will run in multiple languages, it will meet your business process, whether you're a high-tech company or the deal that we just closed with Citicorp, the largest bank in the world. So, which is a completely different process. And that's what we've been really passionate, as you know. Passion is what we're about moving the obstacle out of the way of the old paradigm. Because enterprise software has been, up to this point, and Hasso is kind of illuminating this, only for the very rich, or only for the big companies. If you don't have a lot of money, we're not going to talk to you. We are only for complex situations. And if you've got a serious, company, then you should come to talk to us. Now, I know this because I was at Oracle for 13 years before I started my company, and this is what I did for a living. So, including, Hasso started with the Oracle database in 1988, 1989, 2 or 3 years after I started in the company. But we are at the verge of a breakthrough, again, in our industry. And this breakthrough is as big as the software as service industry has been in the last 10 years. If you go to Sand Hill Road, first of all, you're not going to find them funding any new software companies. There's a lot of venture capitalists here. I can assure you they're not writing tickets for the new 3-tier client-server architectures going out on CD-ROM companies. They're all on SaaS. Okay, so what's next? Now we are breaking through to the platform as a service. And the platform as a service, and it's not just Salesforce, of course, we see it with how many people here on Facebook? Raise your hands. We see it with Facebook. We see it with Amazon. We see it with their new offerings, with EC2 and S3. We see it with Rackspace. We see it with what Google is working on. We see platforms emerging where we are able to accept not only our customers' code, but ISV's code, and run it natively on our platforms. Native. We're running it in the way that R3 ran natively on Oracle and took advantage of the Oracle indexing or whatever it was. We're running our customer and ISV code natively. Now, what this means is that if you can run another company's business, like their whole business, as a software company, you can also run the business processes of any company in the world. And we're seeing now, whether it's ERP or MRP, but wide range of applications now being written natively.
Okay,
and this will be the big breakthrough and the big concept that we're moving now into the platform as a service. And this is the tremendous threat to not just the SAP architecture, but the Microsoft architecture, the Oracle architecture, the BEA architecture, that in the new analyst reports and so forth that are coming, you're going to see that it's the platforms as a service that will be rated, not just the software companies.
Well, wait a sec, because I talked about those 4 great giants in the current enterprise system. You talk about these giant platform companies that are emerging. Are you saying there are going to be these monster platform companies dividing the world among them, where Amazon Web Services has a fact, you're the business one, Google's whatever they want to become, you know, and you sort of cut the world up among you? Or are there going to be thousands of platform companies? Either way, how do you manage this level of complexity? Is this plausible to you, Hasso? Well, you answer, and then I'll take it.
Do you want to hear what we do?
Well, let's go back and forth, so let's
Okay.
have Hasso do it.
Yeah, is that plausible
you.
to you, this platform idea?
Now look, we have 1.2 million software developers on our platform. We have 2,000 partners developing additional software. Since 4 years, this is probably, when did Google Earth come out? So probably around this time. We have the largest software development project SAP has ever done in its history. When we came out with R3, we were 200 developers. There are currently 2,500 developers developing on demand, just to let you know. Just because we are not a startup company and we're using any of the venture capitalists, I appreciate, I'm a little capitalist myself. We are self-financed in this case.
And SAP Ventures is investing out here pretty well.
2,500 developers are developing an on-demand system. So just to let you know. Now, probably this doesn't mean so much because larger companies need more people and to produce the same than smaller companies. So there's no question about that technically it's possible to run large parts or the whole part of an enterprise as a service over the internet. So we're not debating about this anymore.
But you know, the thing...
So let us just assume this is okay. Then we want to take advantage of that. So we are building a system wall to wall, probably from the breadth of functionality bigger than our SAP Business Suite, covering more. Mm-hmm. Functionality-wise, we are only 4 years in the development. It is not covering all the areas, but functionality-wise in all the industries. But we have learned already one lesson. The system, what is inside the system, has to have a coverage level which is close to 100%. Despite our 2,100 open interfaces, companies expect when they put their enterprise, not Salesforce automation, not probably a call center, not analytics, probably any other, the online shop. If they put the company on the system, they have to fit inside the system. And even small companies starting with probably 50 people and going up to the largest ones, probably 1,000, 2,000 now, we're dealing with. Even these companies poke here and there against the system.
What do you think?
We have, can I finish, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Let him
So
finish.
we have to develop a full scope. And if we get all the little modifications away, and I think we all agree that is a lot is doable. We see what we can personalize in other host and online on-demand systems. So if we get all this away, and we have a nearly 100% coverage, and we have open interfaces to do specifics we cannot do, this is where his platform comes in. This is where our 1.2 million developers come in. If they openly can extend this, then, and we save cost in maintaining these systems, whatever technique we use. We can argue about this because I have a substantially different opinion than Marc about this for reasons of our experience and our customers. Then this is a very, very interesting future. If we lower cost and offer the same or better services, then we save some money. The customers and we save some money. We can share that money. So therefore, I believe this is a financially interesting situation that we can actually, and I totally agree with that, can make more money. And that's why we do it.
Yeah, so my opinion is, first of all, when I'm, of course, I have tremendous respect for SAP. It is not only the largest enterprise software company in the world, but it is the oldest. Started in 1972, 5 years before Oracle or even Microsoft. It is 35 years old. Hasso is probably the
I don't know where you're going now. I'm 64 years old, so.
most tenured executive in the enterprise software industry. And when he rolls out that he's doing all these things, what is in my head is the following. I want to figure out how I'm going to get SAP to build on our platform, their applications. And I'm not kidding, because I am going around to every software company I can, large and small, and showing them that, look, they've had a lot of struggles going to on-demand because this is a different world. You saw it in our pre-briefing where, they have not had a lot of success in on-demand so far, and the 2,500 developers, et cetera, that they're building, trying to do it, but they don't have any major customers yet. We have 41,000. So that's why, when I look at that, I go, how do I help them make it happen? Because they need us. And the way that they need to do that is they need to write their new apps on our platform. And I need to convince him to do that, because there's no way he's going to figure this out. You can just hear it. They're talking about the 2,100 interfaces and the 100% uptime. Computers don't run.
Would stagger.
Hold on. I mean, computers don't run at 100%. We all know that. No SAP customer, not DuPont, not Siemens, no one runs at 100%. But the most important thing in on-demand is transparency. That's why we have our trust page, trust.salesforce.com. You can look at all of our systems.
I thought it was because you had a massive outage and had to sort of like tell customers in the future where
the reality, you're always going to have problems. That's the power. But you've got to have the visibility. You're going to have the transparency. You have to be able to open the kimono. And because, of course, you're partnered with the customer, it's a marriage in on-demand. It's not a one-night stand like the old enterprise software industry where you kind of drop the CD-ROM off and say, let us know how that goes, and we'll let you know when the new upgrade is or the new version, or we're going to sell you the next thing. We're there with them every day. We're there in a continuous stream. And it's a whole different set of values, of principles, of metrics, and we're trying to get, and we're going to be in a war to get as many software companies on our platform with our global trusted infrastructure, with our database as a service, logic as a service. We have a virtual machine now that can run our customers' code, user interface as a service,
Mark,
the directory. Hold on.
when are you done with the commercial?
These things is what you're going to have to do to make it happen. The problem with the approach of the 2,500 developers and the 2,100 open interfaces is, but all that and no customer success. So when they go to DuPont, which is one of their largest customers, and say, here's CRM on demand, we've got it for you, like they did about a year ago. And then we go to DuPont and say, here, try this. The reason that we ended up as DuPont's CRM provider is because we made them successful and it works. And we showed them the power of on-demand and the power of the new model in creating that success.
A little context here. CRM, bless its heart, calendars, scheduling. It's not financials. It's not supply chain. It's not deep core.
I don't think you're right, Quentin. I don't know who you've been. Those are the SAP employees, but I don't think you're right. Because processes.
So that when he says it's buggy and brittle and who cares, I kind of have a little time for his point of view. However, I think what's interesting to consider too
But you have to also, don't forget, he already conceded the point. He's moving his financials on demand.
Are you keeping time, or how are you doing that?
You're both going along. You're both marketing. Don't worry. But,
And I save it for later. So.
I think what's interesting, one thing about the future that we're heading to is, like everything in the future, it's going to show up with a lot of the past in it. And you have a company designed for this world. Hasso, are you comfortable that you can transit over to this? Is it going to change your financial model? Is it going to change your how does this change the developer and the ecosystem model you have right now?
I'm not criticizing the moderator, but we don't stick to the questions. And so, but now I have to give scattered answers. Why did he win DuPont? Because we had a shitty CRM system and he had a much better one.
I'm sorry, can you just repeat that? Because the people in the back did not hear it.
Now comes the second half. Why did you lose a software company over there, a big one? Everybody knows that.
You mean Business Objects?
No.
Oh.
No, they can do what they want. And I don't disclose them here. That would be unfair. A very large one, and they went now full-size life on CRM release 7.0. Why? Because it's a better system. So you had a good life, a good time, and now we have a comeback there. So we should not talk about this. This is Salesforce.com against SAP. Why should I say now, okay, if you're really so successful, then how much do you want? So this is not the case here. We are discussing about software as a service, and I want to repeat that there are some implications. I started with those. And we have to see whether companies are willing to move. So do we really want to have our manufacturing schedules? Do we really want to have our customers, including the volume, the sales volume? Do we really have the list of all our technical problems in an open space? I have no problem with that. Many customers have a problem with that. So we have to educate ourselves that security, etc., separation of concern, separation of data. Is there anyone in the room here who has written software and never ever had a memory corruption? Is there anybody in the room who has ever developed software? Okay.
Your employees over here raise their hands.
So there are issues with computing, and we have to get over those. So for example, and therefore we have completely different models, we have the same framework of parameters around, so we totally agree on those, but we have a completely different solution for that. There's one mega trend happening now. We had broadband, and now the other mega trend which is happening is large memory sticks. I carry around an iPod with 80 gig. 1 terabyte is coming in memory. What we are feverishly building with all what we have is in-memory databases. So this new system, which will come out, is heavily based on partial in-memory databases. What does that mean? We have customer data in memory, a large amount of customer data in memory. And actually, funny enough, we store it in the same fashion like the analytics guy are storing. We're going to column-based databases. I don't want to go into details here. If somebody wants to have more information, you can contact, for example, the HPI in Potsdam. We are doing some of the research there, and that is, there's public knowledge available. And this means that we can offer systems which lesser complexity, inner complexity, much higher speed in response. This is the real interesting thing, combined with the modification-free system so that we have 100% clones sitting on a large number of blades. Google has now 1 million plus. I don't know, the last one we counted or I read it was over 1 million already. So that is the future. This is the future. In the transition, will any company be there? Let us start with 50 users, 500 user companies. Whether we got Exxon, whether we get Colgate, whether we got DuPont mentioned here, I don't know. Probably in 10 years, but this is at least the time I see. We will have hybrid systems. I have nothing against that somebody uses the Salesforce.com or uses the business object analytics. If this is the better, more effective offering, and if an office is in the cloud and runs better than the personal office on the personal computer, fine. But this doesn't mean that any of the ones, and I mentioned 3 different ones, says, I have invented the platform and the only platform. We will not have one only platform. This will not happen without Microsoft. This will not happen without Oracle. This will not happen without SAP. Look at our platform revenues. I'm not bragging here, but just our new online database, the in-memory, not online, in-memory database. We made in the first year of the existence $90 million US in revenues.
To circle back to my question, please.
You got to let me just respond to that.
Okay.
Because I think the key is that he's right when he says the software as service industry will not happen without Microsoft, Oracle, or SAP. The reality is that the fundamental core that these companies are holding on to the past, that the innovations that we're looking for, and while I respect the concept of in-memory database, the work that companies that we're seeing, the new companies here, the new internet companies and the companies that we mentioned, the Amazons, the Googles, the eBays, the work that they've done and also the work of all these nice, new, young, internet companies, this is really the next gen. That these big software models, and I think that this is the fundamental crux and the difference in the consciousness, is that I do not believe that we are going to see companies buy and install and upgrade and maintain these systems, whether they are financial systems or CRM systems or manufacturing systems.
I don't know what we're talking
or anything.
When we're talking about on demand, we don't install. This is pre-installed. I personalize it, I customize it, but I get confused. Are we talking now on premise or on demand?
We're talking.
Where are you?
I'm only on one place, which is that fundamentally, that where the industry is moving to will be 100% network approach. That when you talk about, you talked about, ask Microsoft, why do they not have spreadsheet as a service, right? The reason why is he's holding on to his cash cow, which is the Office applications. That's the answer. And so it's not that hard to write spreadsheets as a service. Of course, there's companies that have them. Number one, Google, right? So if you look at Google Apps and you look at the spreadsheets, the word processors, the presentation software, they've been able to innovate in a pure model with a blank slate because they're not held back by the business model. They're not held back.
Your leap of faith is that people will give up their financials, they'll give up these core
They already are.
pieces.
They are doing all of those things.
I don't know what you're talking about, but Mark, I didn't understand what your last comments were, but will that, what you just said, all change when Oracle acquires you?
Well, here's the thing. We can make deflective comments, Hasso, but the reality is you have to buy into the fundamental premises. The world has changed, and the internet is the future, not the past. It's not a fad. And because we have this global platform, this global network, and this new architecture for building these applications with the servers that are, able to be massively parallelized, way beyond what we ever thought was possible with MPP or any of this, that we can build now technology that can provide a level of automation for business or for consumers that previously was unimaginable. And that the ISV, the new software company that's starting out, will be a SaaS or PaaS company. It will not be a software provider. And this is the fundamental shift. And there's key tenets and reasons why. We talked about this earlier. But what multi-tenancy gives you, first of all, is speed of innovation. We can do 3, 4 releases a year, just like Google and Yahoo or Amazon can do, because we're not held back by having, when we put out a new version, we throw out all the old stuff.
That's no different for him. You're making a point about the technology itself.
It is today, because when he releases the new version of R3 or MySAP or whatever,
R3
he
is
has
since
to,
5 years out of sales.
or whatever it's
I don't know
called
what
now.
you're
But you
talking
have the
about.
guys who are maintaining it in India or whatever. You have to maintain the old versions. Okay, let me ask you this way. All SAP customers are not on the most current version, right?
Look, that's legacy
So you
that funds his
have
future
to, you have to
development, too.
maintain
I
the old
cannot have a
versions.
discussion about SaaS when we talk about R3. I cannot have.
Well, let me ask you about this. All of the majors and you succeed because of the ecosystem you create. Developers, consulting firms, support, global sales, and other firms. It's all you. It's all about you. It's not about other companies.
I don't underwrite this, where
Pardon?
you're going, but continue.
You don't know where I'm going? Okay. Does this change the overall ecosystem for companies that aren't you, for companies that depend on you? What does it do for them?
It's massively different. If we, I don't know whether
We'll
I
talk about it
expressed
a little bit.
myself well enough, but I said, I can say it for enterprise software, we have enough experience now. We need, for the customer space we are addressing, we need a close to 100% coverage of the potential requirements. Close to 100%. Otherwise, it is too cumbersome, and we don't achieve the TCO gains we want to achieve. So that means that we have to have a nearly perfect system. So that's number one. That means there is not much room for some of them sit here.
So you're telling me
who have a business in understanding software, understanding a customer, and write additional code inside a system.
Basically, you're telling me the ecosystem doesn't change. It's a fine answer. I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. Your relationship with other service providers or consulting firms doesn't really change.
I don't know. Do you need any of the famous big 5 consulting companies to use Google Earth? No. So that's the point.
That's what changes.
There
Okay.
is a
Well,
massive
I
change
don't agree with, because our big implementations, like Cisco, for example, 2 blocks from here, or whatever, how far over they are, is partnered with Accenture. We still have to work with Accenture. We still have to work with Deloitte. Because we're writing code, but we're managing it, we're delivering it in a managed environment. We're delivering the code, we're delivering the applications in a different architecture. And this is my point, and I'm sorry if I haven't articulated it fully. There's still you still have to write the business process. You still have to do the customization. You still have to do the integration. You still have to do, but we're doing it fundamentally differently. We've re-architected how you build and deploy the application, which gives you one thing that you really did not get in the old model at the same level, and that is customer success at every level: small, medium company, large company. And that is the next level. So I think even with the SaaS and PaaS model, these are not the kind of, we're not delivering QuickBooks. We're automating DuPont's customer systems in a dozen different business units, ranging from, Kevlar to Tyvek, on and on and on, which are complex systems integrated to a complex system, which is SAP, on the back end. That work has to be done by a professional systems integrator. But the total cost of ownership, the manageability of that system, the usability of that system, and the cost to deploy are all dramatically different. As I said at the beginning, you see paradigm shifts in our industry, and you know you have a paradigm shift when it's an order of magnitude easier and lower cost than the previous model.
Yeah, but you talked about...
That is now what is happening. We're still
It's
dealing
not
with
just
code.
about you, though. His
Where are
model
you
sees
going?
that too.
Where are you going? If you think, this is a real controversial statement here. If you really think that you can provide a software system, a service, and others can write massively code in the best, your platform is the best which the world has ever seen, beating all other platforms. And there's code individually written for customer A, in this case Cisco. And then you do thousands of other companies and they do the same. And you change your system. You come gradually, you get better,
Right.
you know more, probably you do some what they did locally there. What happens? Accenture has to come back, has now to figure out, oh, the new Salesforce 7.1 or 15.8 is different. How do you keep these thousands of interfaces?
That's why we're going to have a private meeting and talk about this.
Yeah, thank you
Explain
very
it.
much.
This dynamic
Thank
system
you very
is-
much. Mark,
This is the
I
key.
assume when you were at Augur...
No, but this is the
Mark,
key.
listen.
This is why software as a service is a beautiful thing.
Mark, listen.
Let him go.
All
When-
41,000 customers
Mark, down boy.
are
Let him
all on one platform. So
Yeah,
we are
yeah.
upgrading that only. We only have one platform to upgrade. They all
That
do
is
get
not
new
the
features.
problem. You upgrade, and there is individual other software written again. Mark, when you were at Oracle, I assume you programmed?
Do you think, yes, of course. No, when I was at Apple, I programmed. When I did Oracle, I did not program anymore. But we don't break links. We don't break the customizations on upgrade because we are running a managed environment. That is not something that we do. So all 41,000 customers are on the same version, and in June, we're going to release our new version, for example. That day when we release our new version, we'll have about 150 new features.
Don't.
150 new features. When you get the new version, you don't break the links, you don't do the but you get the new features. So when you say, does Accenture have to come back and re-implement some things? In some cases, yes. Because maybe now they have a portal, maybe now there's a PRM capability, maybe there's this capability, and that's the power. But you still have the managed environment.
This is clear. We all want to have the managed environment. I would be scared what you just said, to which extent you will allow to extend the software. If you expand this or extend this to a whole enterprise system, not an ERP system, far beyond an enterprise system, I would be scared to death.
Well,
I would be scared to death.
I would think the real deal killer would be security.
So now security this is a difficult thing. I don't want to talk about security too much. I ask you the question.
It's actually the opposite. That's the opposite point, actually, on that.
You walked gently over it. I would like, if you give me a paper, I know how the multi-tenant system works, because when we moved to the IMS concept of IBM, we had multi-tenancy, and it looks very much like the system you have. And we had reasons why we walked away for that, but I don't want to discuss this, because it's not the philosophical discussion of on-demand and service on-demand. But I cannot understand that you just said you love in-memory databases and you want to do it with the current multi-tenants concept. So if you can, we don't have to discuss this here, it's really technical. Probably you don't want to discuss it, but if you discuss it, please send me an email and then we have a discussion about that. So you started that, and that was, and probably we should go into this again. This is the financial thing. Microsoft is not releasing the Office in the cloud because that will destroy their model. So I cannot answer for Microsoft.
In your own case.
But let us look our model. Why do we start with an enterprise system on demand, not with Exxon? It could never work. In 10 years, we are not done. So we cannot go there. Therefore, we go to the other end of the market, despite we have a little overlap with our B1 system, which is on-premise, little system, up to 50 users, something like that, or 100. We start there, and we want to grow up. I clearly see this coming. There's no question we didn't forget the number of, I don't want to brag here how many developers we have and how much it will cost, because we see this coming. There's no question about this. And over time, we will have hybrid systems, and in the end, we will have probably a much larger number of systems on demand than the one on premise. And then we have some in between. The appliances, which are identical to the ones on demand, but they're on a computer at the customer side, totally managed by the service provider. I'll give you an example. What is for me where we are going? Aircrafts. You cannot modify an aircraft. You can do everything inside. You can take a carpet, you can take a different veneer, you have a different seating, and then it has to be FAA compliant, and somebody checks this off. But you cannot crawl in the engine and change a blade. You cannot crawl in any of the computers and change something, so you're not allowed. Because the complexity of that aircraft is so high that this is done. And then there is one maintenance company responsible for it, the builder of the aircraft, with all the partners behind. So I believe in this partner and everything. But there's one single point of maintenance, or there are maintenance companies which are authorized by this maintenance responsible company. This is the model, and this is not inside the aircraft, this is outside the aircraft, these systems. We go for this model. And therefore, I believe we have many things in common. We should, and I only give you this advice, but you might not take it because you're younger.
You know how it goes.
Don't overestimate your platform. We have sunk so many platforms. We put on, and they were too weak, and they went away with them, taking with them whole computer companies. So be careful and don't underestimate this. And again, I don't want to be too tacky, but when you talk, you're so Oracle focused, when you talk about this with Oracle, there will be a massive joint venture between Oracle and you to make your platform so big that really 1,000 or 2,000 companies and 1.2 million developers can sit on top. But it's good what you do. I appreciate it. I'm not criticizing it. Don't overestimate it. The ship can sink.
Is that right? You're going to do a monster deal with Oracle? You want to talk about that a little tonight?
I'm learning about it for the first time right here. It's very exciting.
It wasn't the papers. Didn't you read it?
It's got to be true.
It's got to be true.
I
only read what Quentin writes, actually.
If you're still available, let us talk. So.
You know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but on the security side and on the debugging side, at least, you'd probably come back with some kind of many eyes argument, right? The more people developing inside, the more it hardens.
Yeah. This is another, you brought up the security point, and I wanted to flip it around because I think that we all know that security is a tough issue in our industry, and it's getting tougher every day. And another advantage of the multi-tenant system approach in the shared system is that when you can see a problem, you can immediately affect all customers. You can make a change that will immediately change the system. You're in control of all the customers. The problem with Microsoft and Outlook and Exchange and all of that, of course, and where they've really screwed all of us, is that something will happen where there's a vulnerability. Until we patch or get download or whatever, we are all vulnerable. But in multi-tenancy, you don't have that problem. That's why you don't have that problem with a Gmail, or you don't have that problem, you know, the Facebook, or this kind of a true, pure multi-tenant approach.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, back to what I didn't finish on. So if something is so clear on our mind and we are so jointly believing in it that it will be massively successful, let us assume this is happening, then any company which has the brain and the money has to go there. And the financial model, whether it's upfront payment.
Well, why do you think Microsoft hasn't gone there?
You have to talk to builders.
Well, what do you think? You've been doing this a long time.
Most likely the software is not ready.
I thought they looked at your margins and cringed.
No, I don't think that's. They're not stupid. Actually, they're pretty smart. So I think, look at us. I talk about us. We launched the software last year. We need this year to fulfill all these things I was talking about. We have to learn. You cannot learn this in the lab. You'll have to learn this on the flight. And when you do this for companies, it's different than for single users. He had a fantastic learning curve. I wish we could have done that, but nobody buys single user software from SAP. Business Objects did this. 100,000 customers, 20,000 are paying. Together with them, they do analytics on demand. Great story. I'm jealous, but we cannot do this. What we want to do is get a real enterprise on the system, and even we, living in complexity, underestimated how complex that job is. And we cannot go in scaling before we are 99.9 sure that this is a system which covers for the area most of the functionality. What is missing, we can add quickly. This is what Marc talked about, how you add, how you get developers on, etc., etc. We have to get this under control before we can ramp up and go into the volume business, and that takes time.
Do you think that your management was too resistant initially with software as a service? Were they too much about single tenancy and reframing the discussion? They were not fast enough to move into multi-tenants?
I really don't believe it is there, because we're totally blade-oriented, and some customers are on one blade. Let us take a significant 100-user customer, takes a $400 blade or whatever it is, and if we take Google blades, and a larger customer needs multiple blades already. So all the software has to be, as you said, identical twins. We have to have utilities who manage them simultaneously. Before a new client comes in, there is a prepared system manufactured in the last weeks, like in a manufacturing company, and we just dribble in the specifics like you do, the customer identification, address, and then they start working on the system. So startup time is the same. There's no difference. Management of the system, we have one single source, we have to manage our one single source, and then it's uploaded in the system. So we can have endless discussion about this. Marc, I have been in multiple different OLTP systems. The best still was at the IMS system of the IBM intellectually, because that was our client
I don't think
server.
everybody here knows what IMS is, so...
An old IBM system. Don't go into that. But so we have to formulate our objectives in a formal way and then we can use different technologies. It's endless that we discuss plasma versus LCD. We have to discuss what is the pixel, what is the cost per pixel, what is the clarity, and what is the glare, and can you watch it when the sun there's light in a room or not. So we have to discuss things like this. And then let the Sonys and the JVCs and others, and he sees work out which is the better technology.
See, I agree with him on this point, because when I was at Oracle in '90, when we really had the breakthrough that this was going to happen in a huge way, it was really based on a lot of work when we were doing in the early '90s, a lot of research on what we called at the time the information superhighway. We didn't have the word the internet yet. And then when we saw the internet and HTML browsers emerge in 95, 94, 95, 93, that's when we really said, wow, things are really going to change. But when I saw by 98, we were kind of going through this mishigas. What is happening? How do we make it happen? Because you have all these conflicting financial and business and technical models in a big company. And so that's why I quit my job in '99, because I really said we have got to be so singularly focused. It's the only way that we will get true customer success. And Jeff Henley, who was the CFO of Oracle at the time and is now the chairman, took me into his office and he said, "You're smart to leave because," and what was interesting was, we could never make the shift, and I thought he would say technology, but he said financial model, because the way we recognize revenue is also very different in the software service world. We're recognizing revenue as we go. We have more than $1 billion on our balance sheet in deferred revenue, which is basically deals that we've signed and not yet recognized, and the revenue streams out over time. That's different than in the traditional enterprise software model, where you recognize the revenue in the quarter that you sign it.
Your argument seems to be everybody's a prisoner of their org chart, and there's something to that. Now, are your Safeway grocery store 2.6 operating margins ever going to get towards his 26% operating margins?
Well, you've seen it, as you know, because you follow our company very closely, you've seen a dramatic increase in our margins, but of course, we are growing very, very fast, and we delivered in our last quarter more than 50% growth, and we also delivered more, I think it was more than 100% growth on our net income. The power of that is that we're a young company. We're not 37 years old, right?
Yeah, but
we're
they also
nine.
have an enormous reputation for reliability that you need to work towards.
Well, that's your opinion, but I think we have a tremendous reputation for transparency.
Yeah.
That is, we have the ability to show you exactly, we have no secrets, as you know. If you want to know what our system is doing right now, you can look at trust.salesforce.com. No computer is perfect. They have their own issues. They have a big lawsuit with Waste Management right now. Everybody's got problems, but how do you disclose those problems? How do you deal with those problems, and how do you open the kimono on those problems? That is the key to running a successful business, not if you're going to have problems.
Okay. We're going to open up for questions.
That was a foul, by the way.
I think you told me that, actually.
Yes.
Mark, that was a foul. That was a foul, what you just did.
Oh.
So you lost, I think, somebody between 5 and 7 in the largest software company.
You keep telling me this, but I would like to know who it is. I didn't know we have that company.
I tell you when we go out.
Oh,
so
right.
that was the foul back.
The secret win. The secret win. It's coming.
We're going to open it up to questions in just a sec.
No, I have to do the financial thing.
Maybe we're going to open up to questions in just a sec.
CFOs have to be overruled if they say, we cannot do this because of a financial model. Innovator's dilemma. A company is dead. If they see something on the horizon, they invest massively, then they are scared financially.
Then
so
why
I
have you
cannot
been
answer
able?
Microsoft.
Then why do you think SAP has not delivered the software service system yet?
Because we are developing it for 4 years, and it is in the market now. We would take another year or probably 18 months to become really so complete that we can ramp up, and fine, then you will see us. But
it's
if
not
you
the
ignore
innovator's
us,
dilemma.
this is good for us.
Quick round. Before I go to questions, quick round.
So, but I will not allow that the financial managers say, oh, this doesn't work.
Okay.
By the way, the financial model, I have some experience with that, because we had software as rental in the 70s. We carried it in the 80s. Our customers then said, we're going to use your software. Shit, there is a customer in America still using the code I wrote. The last time I coded was in '85. I just learned there's a large American company still using the code. I'm scared.
They're waiting
They said.
You don't fly that airline, do you?
These companies said, when we had rentals, let us have a payout model. We know that we trust your software, we trust your company, we will run for 10 plus years with our software. They did a little spreadsheet and figured out it is much more expensive to pay an annual or monthly fee per user than to pay off.
Okay, we got to go to questions, but very quickly, briefly, I'd like each of you to tell me something you admire or wish you had about the other guy's company.
Well, I think that, I have tremendous respect.
Just say money.
By
Worked for me.
So, honestly, I respect the tenure. I think that anyone in this room who's been in this industry has got to give this gentleman tremendous accolades for staying with it for 36 years. So you just don't see it. You even see Bill Gates leaving the industry after 31 years, or you see, Larry Ellison, of course, has been CEO of Oracle for 3 decades. But 36 years, 37 years, this is spectacular accomplishment, and this kind of commitment to the industry and commitment to excellence over multiple decades, and having to debate multiple paradigm shifts and debate multiple entrepreneurs over 37 years, that is amazing.
That's enough now.
Okay. Before we go to 37 years, very quickly.
No. What do I appreciate?
Yeah.
That he solved something which nobody has solved before, that you can start as a single user, feel comfortable, tell your colleague, I have something that works. Tell your next colleague, I have something that works. Go your boss, can we get 20 licenses? Up to, I think your largest is now 60,000 or something. I just read in the papers. That is fantastic. That is fantastic. We are not in this business. Now we are in this business, single user-oriented software, and therefore we're doing it. This is, you cannot, when you're so successful in enterprises starting from, I repeat, 100 people, 50 users, then to go to single user systems like Microsoft, this is hard. You can't do it. We tried it, failed. Therefore, a huge investment in SAP to have a company which has done the same. Start with a single user and go up to hundreds of thousands of 100,000 users. So this is where I admire him from, that they worked this out, and people like their software. Shit, yeah, it was better than our CRM on demand. That was not good enough, and therefore he has all the right to beat us.
Okay.
Watch out what 7.0 does to you.
Be around another 36. Questions from the audience? And please wait for the micro. Yes, sir. Wait for the microphone if you can. Do we have another one over there next? Okay.
So, I'm interested. We've heard some very interesting your story. But what about this little company up in Redmond that keeps having design on your guys' space? Are they ever going to make it?
Microsoft.
I
What
don't
about
think
Microsoft?
I don't think they have a
Microsoft and
design on
enterprise
SAP.
software, what about
It's
them?
about you.
Oh, I thought in the cloud.
In ERP, Microsoft.
The current charts, or the charts I know, so the 5 largest enterprise software vendors, they're pretty stagnant in market share. You cannot rule them out. You know Steve Ballmer. You know Steve Ballmer, and look at their bank account. So even if they have to redo it again, or so you cannot count them out. You have to watch them. By the way, they're a very good partner of ours. So they're there for the long run.
Another question? Yes, sir.
Hi. One of the tenets of software as a service, from what I understand, one of the major tenets is that you can switch vendors if you don't like something. It occurs to me that if you're getting them to design on your platform, that it is a lot harder for them to switch from your underlying application. So I was just wondering if you could comment on that.
Yes.
Yes.
That is right.
And therefore, we take the risk that I want to see, probably it's wishful thinking, but have the least amount of company-specific software in the system. It has to be very small. I cannot tell you how small, but there's a risk that they can switch then. But that's a better risk than they have to add 10 or 20% software to a system they just bought, rented, or whatever.
Okay. So you can take another question over there.
Yeah, I'm Ken Ross. Mark, Hasso.
raw systems.
Just a couple of things. First of all, to remind everybody that...
And we should just say, Ken is the
Ken
founder of
Ross.
Raw Systems, and what year did you found Raw Systems?
1972.
1972, so one of
And
the
we
real
had
innovators.
software as
still
a
there?
service back in 1975, so it's not that
Associates.
new a concept.
Computer Associates.
But my question really deals with the role of the IT department. One of the things I've seen is that people want software as a service because the users can control their own destiny and they can basically bypass the IT department. And the IT department tends to want to then cycle back and grab control and have on-premise software. And I'm curious about your comments on that.
Well, my view is that that's not true, that today that we work more closely with the CIO and the IT department than any other function of the business. Of course, we have to be the hero of our user and the champion of our user. We have to make sure our user is successful. As you heard, we're constantly managing and monitoring all of our million-plus subscribers to make sure they're successful. But our most important customer inside the company, of course, is the CIO. And when we talk about DuPont, we work closely with the CIO at the time, Bob Rideout, to make sure that we are part of his corporate architecture, that we're integrating to his standards, and so forth and so on, because this is integrated as part of a corporate system. You cannot just push the IT department aside if you want to be successful as a software as a service vendor. It goes against the very concept that this is a critical system inside the organization. But thank you for the question, Ken.
No, I don't know whether I understood the question completely, so I agree there will always be an IT department. And even if all software is to the largest extent maintained outside this company, then you still need technical people because the front-end computers, the networks are still there. You still have to understand the services and how do you combine the services because there will always be service integration. But I recommend that companies in this wonderful world where everything is close to perfect and so broad and much cheaper, that they come back to a model they had in the 70s when I worked for IBM, or started working for IBM, and in the 80s. They need something which was called organizational department. They have to understand what they can do with computer systems. They cannot bring young consultants in. They can help. They can do peak load. But you have to have a constant work on the subject of software systems in a company.
Yeah. And just to extend that comment, because I agree, is that the role of the CIO is changing, and that he's really moved, if you look at it, from really being kind of the IT director where he had to hook up all the computers and he had to buy the routers, and this has become a commodity business at that point. And he needs to become more of the he or she, I should say, should become much more of the chief innovation officer in the company. These systems, the on-demand systems that we have and the future ones coming from SAP one day in 18 months, that this opportunity is for the CIO to be able to take those things and to rapidly deliver value to the enterprise, and that is the power.
Actually, I have to add for the people from analysts, press, and so on, I would like to ask you not to take information with regards to timeline delivery from someone else than SAP.
As a rule, we don't do that in my line of work.
Hasso, this is a question.
We have not acquired him yet and make him a spokesman.
Hasso, this is a question for you, and right here. I guess I had to stand up, and I would have full disclaimer here that I work for Marc, so it's not a hardball question. Just something I was curious about. Quentin framed up the conversation at the beginning today with the relative sizes of our companies, and something I've been scratching my head about all week was, why'd you agree to this? And you're a huge company, we're a relatively small company. Why did you agree to come and speak with us today?
I like the challenge. No, To tell you the truth, a year ago, somewhere in San Jose, I delivered a speech about our on-demand system, and I did it as a professor on a blackboard. And Marc Benioff was speaking at the same venue just shortly after me, and the moderator said, "What a pity that you couldn't meet and have a heated discussion."
We've actually never met before this.
Yeah. So
this is our first time.
he was excited about the possibility that we could do this, and when we had the chance, why not? So this is not to have an intellectual discussion about on-demand. Is not restricted to relative size of the company, neither small nor big.
Thank you. Next.
Hi. Well, I'm greatly enjoying this banter. I got to say, as a CIO of one of the enterprises that writes pretty big checks to both of you, I think your discussion is really missing the mark. Right? So my comment is, really, as a CIO, I'm not interested in technology. I'm not interested in platforms. I'm not interested in how you're going to do it. I'm interested in solutions. So I see a difference between the two solutions that you're prescribing. You both believe in software as a service. I get it. You're both gravitating towards more functionality, Mark. Hasso, you're gravitating towards software as a service. I get it. Your approaches are different. So my question is, Mark, your approach tends to give me as a CIO a lot of choices. So I get many different service providers who can add to your platform. My challenge with that approach is, how do I make sure that I get end-to-end process integration? And also the question for you is, I've never had a choice when it comes to SAP solutions, and that kills me. Sometimes my business can't.
I didn't understand.
I don't get choices with SAP solutions. I'm locked into your model. I have made such a big investment in this end-to-end integration, which I love. But sometimes when I need that extra customization, I don't get that choice.
And could
you're prescribing a closed system, even though it's software as demand. So my question to you is, how do you give me more choices?
Okay, please.
And also, can you just tell everybody who you are?
Would you mind identifying yourself?
I'm Calvin Doe, CIO for EFI.
Okay.
Where?
Thanks.
EFI, Electronics for Imaging.
Okay. Somewhere in the room, there's Zia Yusuf. He is partner manager at SAP, and I said we have 2,000 partners. He has to talk to you. Probably you have to upgrade your system to a later one where we have these. You have to. We didn't build SOA in the system 6-7 years ago, and then you have a large number of interfaces we will keep as standard for the next foreseeable future. And you can choose, I don't know, go to the internet first if you don't want to talk, but Zia Yusuf sits just 1, 2, 3, 4 tables to the other side and have a talk. And if you are not happy with his answer, send me an email.
Did you just sell an upgrade?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how it's done.
Cool.
It's impressive.
What do you think I
his,
do?
His massive complexity, unreliability, I don't know what to choose.
It's a core
core
competency.
Thing, yeah. Well, no, speak to that. He had a knock for you, so.
I think that, what he said is absolutely right, that, what we have is loosely coupled partners. And so we have a core, we've had a core, and then we've loosely coupled those partners to that core. It delivers functionality rapidly, but not tightly integrated to the core. And that's why now we've expanded with we have a new virtual machine for hosting customers' code, which is called Apex, that I think you know about. Plus, we also have some new native user interface technology, and we're moving those partners, which were loosely coupled, into the core through native code. And I think, and I hope that that will, make you more satisfied. But the good news is, Calvin, there's no upgrade.
Ooh! Do I have another question?
Take his word.
Mark, this question is primarily for you. I'm curious your perspective. The innovator's dilemma was mentioned earlier by Hasso, and I would credit Clay Christensen's sort of framework to explaining a lot of what you did to Siebel with the new market disruption, attracting customers to CRM technology who wouldn't have bought CRM technology before. What do you think of Sugar CRM sort of displacing you as potentially that new market disruption with customers who wouldn't otherwise buy CRM technology now implementing an open source model, while you have sort of fled that market to try to go after the Ciscos and the bigger customers and satisfying their needs?
If possible, could you identify yourself?
I'm Scott Jacobs from McKinsey.
Okay, and fled the market.
So I think that open source is a very good model, and I use a lot of open source in my core technology, but in the same way, I'm a service provider, and this is the model that I believe in going forward on the internet. And that is the model, as I've said now ad nauseum, the Google model, the eBay model, the Amazon model. If that's not the correct model for your company, if there's a better model for you, whether it's the upgrade model or it's the open source model or whatever it is, if you want more software, which is what that is, that's available. But I don't believe in that model because I don't believe in the future of the software industry in that way. I see a new model emerging, which is services. Lots and lots of services delivered over the internet that are both loosely and tightly coupled and delivered on these both homogeneous and heterogeneous platforms. And that is the direction that I see. So it's a religious difference.
But you just said that you upgrade your offering soon.
Yes, but he doesn't have to do it. So we do it
Yeah,
for
that's
him.
He sold an upgrade
And
too.
I don't sell it to him. So
No, why-
he,
but please,
so
Mark,
let me tell
don't.
you how it works. So here's the deal.
I give up.
He pays a subscription fee. So he's Calvin Doe. He's the CIO of
Yeah, do you
electronics.
think we do this differently? What do you think?
Well, you just told him he needs to...
He has an...
Is it a free upgrade?
Mark, what kind of system does he have?
Is it a free upgrade?
He has a SAP Business Suite or he has an SAP All-in-One. He doesn't have. Do you have an SAP On-Demand system? No. Okay.
What is that?
Yeah, that is a on-premise installation of the R3 successor SAP Business Suite.
What should he move to?
He should stay on this for the next 5 years, at least. If you find somebody better, fine. If Oracle is better, if Microsoft is better, I can't stop you. But I would not. How I don't want to have to. I can have the discussion.
I got
outside.
time for one or two more questions.
If you are
I want
of
to
a
let the audience
significant size, you are not a candidate to move
pick up a
to
couple
on-demand soon.
Okay, one.
Yeah.
And could you identify yourself, please?
Jean-Baptiste Su with the French news agency. This is a question for Hasso. Yeah. You mentioned several times that you have not acquired Salesforce yet. So does it make sense for SAP to acquire an on-demand company like Salesforce?
Makes sense is such an interesting
That
term.
is I have to be careful here. It always makes sense to look into something. If
No, he
his-
said do it.
If
Like,
no.
write
If
the
his
check.
Apex platform is really as good as he thinks it is, we should look even more. But
I have a better idea, actually. I have a
his
better
idea
Lawyers are gonna fly
to
you
put
right out
our
of the country.
software
My
on top.
idea is, here's my idea. My idea is you should build one of your apps, pick one that you think that's appropriate, on our platform and try it out for a few years and see how it goes. And then if it goes well, you know,
Or probably we do that.
then you can look, you know.
No, you
So
know what the
should-
risk with you
let's
is?
build some apps. That's what I'm saying. That's
What
the
is the
power.
risk with him?
No, you're still too good a friend with Larry.
You're still too good a friend with that.
That's-
He sees Larry buying you.
Yeah. And I don't go in a bidding war. But probably the SAP management sees that completely differently, and then they will inform the supervisory board, and then I have to vote.
That was kind of a financial version of whatever. Yeah, back there.
Hi, my name is Ricky. I'm an employee at Salesforce, and I had a question about the platforms.
Another Salesforce employee?
Well, I'm going to try to keep it unbiased, but the
Sure.
platforms, Mark, you've been speaking about trying to get people to develop and trying to encourage developers on your platform. And also, you were saying how much manpower you already have and how many developers you have at the moment. And I was wondering how you're going to be able to focus the manpower that you have now versus Mark, you're getting the mind share. So you're going to have people developing independently and creatively versus the manpower focused on something. How you're going to encourage people to develop on either or.
I hardly understood a word, but
Yeah, and you know what? I'd like to just say that I'd just like to ask the employees of both companies not to ask questions so that we can let the other people in the room ask the questions if that's all right. But thank you.
Yeah. Let's take a different
I agree.
question. Yeah, let's take a different question. Do you have another question? I can take 2 more, I'm told. Okay.
Hi, Charles Jolly from Sprouted. So you talked about the platforms earlier, and you know, Windows became a platform of choice for developers, especially consumers, because primarily of its deployment in the enterprise. So what do you think is going to happen with the platforms on the internet? I can't build an app for Salesforce or for Force.com and take that app, run it on Facebook, right? They're completely separate platforms. They're targeted at different demographics, obviously. Do you think we're going to be in a world where, you know, we have 3 or 4 platforms that end up kind of segregating into different markets? Or are they going to end up dominating like Windows?
That's a great question. Can I tweak that just a little bit and say, and what will that, if they do start interoperating, what does that do to complexity and reliability?
Well, first of all, of course,
that was my second part. Yeah, that's good.
We have an application that runs on Facebook today. It's called Faceforce, and you can get it on our App Exchange. But we're building more technology so that you can build applications that will run on Facebook or other platforms. I do see that that's a tremendous opportunity. You will have multiple platforms as a service, and unlike kind of the previous platform world where you had to make this kind of hardline religious choice, you will be able to choose, and it kind of gets back to Calvin's question, where it's appropriate, you'll be able to make a loosely coupled solution, which Hasso referred to as a mashup, or the ability to bring two services together. That's one direction. And the other, and of course, we've done a lot of that on App Exchange. And then the second direction is to build natively and build into the core, which also, you know, so you have the business processes all fully integrated as one service, as more, you know, maybe as a more traditional approach that you might see like a traditional large SAP suite. So the approach will be up to the customer on how they want to actually build and deploy, or up to the ISV.
As I understood the question, are we converging to one single platform, probably Google, or Microsoft or Oracle? I exclude us now for a second. Or will we have a proliferation of platforms? Will we have that? Does it will grow when we had client server? We had platforms all over the place. 5 guys came together, had a brilliant idea, and built a better platform than anybody else. And so we had platforms. Unfortunately, if you took one of those great platforms, you got stuck because the companies were not strong enough. Boom, they dropped. Boom, they dropped. And I don't want to throw in all the names here. You know, probably some of you were in these platform companies. And then there is a consolidation of the platforms. And unfortunately, and this is the injustice in this world, not the best platform wins, the strongest platform wins. Most reliability, largest number of customers, biggest company behind. So therefore, we see still a domination of IBM and Microsoft in the platform business. It's very simple. So whatever happens, and who has brilliant idea, has to come up to the size of Google, IBM, or Microsoft in order to have a sustainable chance to be the platform of the future for all of us.
Anybody want the last question? I got a fight here. Oh, back there. Sorry. Back there.
So this is Philippe Bottery with Bessemer Venture Partners. I'd like to have your opinion on how do you think the emergence of SaaS is going to shift the balance between best of breed versus suites?
Good question.
Can you repeat the question?
You got the
probably at the short term, we will see many different ideas popping up. Some will consolidate around the current leaders in SaaS. Let us take Salesforce.com. Let us take Business Objects, being pretty big. Definitely Google and others you mentioned. So there will be many, and then we will have multiple ones of the same. And then again, the consolidation will start. I don't know whether then Oracle is still there to collect them all up.
I'd like to end the debate by saying I completely agree with Dr. Plattner.
Professor, but
Professor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Was very good, huh? That was good.
Just sit down a moment.
Wow, what an evening. This is going down in our history books as one of the best debates we've ever had. We want to thank Marc Benioff and Hasso Plattner and, of course, Quentin Hardy for joining us this evening and sharing their views with the audience. Let's give them another round of applause, please. And before we stop streaming tonight, I would like to add one thing. We have had over 1,100 viewers on Ustream tonight from around the world. I got the statistics while the program was going on. We want to thank the viewers for staying with us tonight. I think that everybody got a lot out of this, so thank them at home as well. So I did omit something a few minutes ago. Citrix, who is our big sponsor this evening, is giving away a Slingbox tonight. And they're going to be drawing later tonight, I think, after the program. Make sure you've left your card and signed up in their booth, in their display table out in the lobby. And so you will have a shot at the Slingbox. Okay, so at this point also, we want to say that on Citrix you're going to notify them, right? Is that correct? Okay. So let's find out right now for a moment who won the jersey from CSC, the team jersey. And so as they do in the award shows, can I have the envelope, please? Unknown other than to our auditors, I think, and maybe maybe Amanda here. All right, and it's not a winner, but the shirt goes to Ellen Birmingham from Cisco Systems. Come on up, Ellen. Is that you walking up? Raise your hand if that's you. Good. Okay. We'll hold the shirt up because she's got a long hike to get up here. And then the speakers, we want to thank you again for being here. You'll each receive a wonderful shirt. Here they come from Jenny. A shirt from compliments of the Churchill Club. And the mugs are yours to keep as well. So we want to thank you again for being here and have a safe drive home.